The Titans aren't in the top 5 either. You would think they would be based upon their performance to date. Yesterday's win over the Colts, a significant one that essentially clinched the division. The problem is Derrick Henry, surgery on his foot coming tomorrow morning. He was injured in the game on Sunday, went back in, played in the game, and ultimately the surprise that came this morning, the news that he may be done for the year. And he will indeed have that surgery tomorrow. There he is flexing his foot on the sideline. But he continued to play. He didn't have 100 rushing yards yesterday, but the Titans got the win. And this is the first major injury he's had. And we thought the guy was indestructible. After all the carries he had at Alabama, he had a game there, Charean, with 46 carries at one point. And he got eased into the NFL. But he's had a heavy workload the past few years. And you just wonder if maybe he was worked a little bit too much.
Well, and that's the first thing I thought of, Mike. 2019, he had 321 touches, led the NFL. 2020, it was 397, led the NFL. This year, Mike, he's already at 237. He was on pace for over 500 touches, 504, which would have been the NFL record. James Wilder had 492 in his career in 1 year. So it would have been a ton of touches for this guy, and you wonder if those have kind of caught up to him. I know the Titans are kind of holding out hope that maybe they can make the playoffs and he can come back and do a little bit in the postseason. I wouldn't expect that. It's a foot injury, and it's foot surgery, and I've had foot surgery, and I know how long it is to get back. It's a tough injury to have. But let's hope the best for Derrick Henry. But now it's Ryan Tannehill's team, and this, to me, changes the total identity of this team. This has been a run-first team. Now it's going to be a Ryan Tannehill team, and he's going to have to play better than what he's played so far this season, make fewer interceptions than he's had this season for the Titans to do what they think they have the team to do.
Again, surgery Tuesday morning for Derrick Henry. Mike Vrabel, the coach of the Titans, was asked today whether Henry should have gone back in the game after it was clear that there was something wrong with that foot.
I think we've always, done what's best for the player. I think that, there's some things that we never want to put a player in jeopardy to not be able to do his job or to make anything worse. So I don't think that that was the case yesterday, and then hopefully we can always avoid any of those situations.
Was there any discussion of shutting him down?
There was, I think there was internally in my mind. I mean, I check with, obviously, the medical staff. I check with the player, and in this case, I check with Derrick. And I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway. I think he's earned the right to help me make that decision. Like we always do on his rest and recovery, and certain situations that him and I have had over the course of the time together, whether that was to sit him for a game against the Saints or allow him to go back out there against the Texans or whatever it may be. And, we felt like at that time, and listening to Derrick and the medical staff, that, he would be okay being out there. So that's kind of where I was. And it did, and we tried to spell him a little bit, with some other guys, and it's kind of how it went.
He qualified. I mean, in a situation like that, of course he's going to want to stay, right? Every player is going to want to stay.
Not necessarily, Paul. You don't talk to a lot of our guys. A lot of our guys and some guys around the league well, you can know. And it's not that he's qualified. Again, I checked with the medical staff, checked with Derrick, and there was no indication that he would make anything any worse.
Look, Mike Vrabel's not one of the old-school butthole coaches that is going to ride a guy until something breaks. His interests are aligned with Derrick Henry's interests. He wins more football games if Henry's able to play, and there's no benefit at all to Mike Vrabel to push Derrick Henry to play at a time when he shouldn't. And you do have to trust the player. Nobody knows the player's body better than the player himself, and Derrick Henry felt fine to keep going, and no indication, no reason to think that it got any worse because he went back in there. It's just an injury that requires surgery, and now he's going to be out for a while, maybe not necessarily for the year. He could be out for the year. And the good news is it happened with an opportunity to try to swing a trade. The bad news is who's going to do a trade with a with a Titans team that, needs to replace Derrick Henry, not many teams through 8 weeks with a 17-game season are in a position where they can just say, we're throwing in the towel now. And that's the challenge to having a trade deadline at this point. I think it's too early for most teams, other than the Lions, the Texans, and maybe Washington, maybe the Dolphins, to say we'll sell off whatever assets we have, Charean.
I would make a call to Denver just to see if they are sellers in this thing after the Von Miller deal, because I didn't think that the Broncos would make a move. So at least you make a phone call. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen, but Melvin Gordon could fill in well in Tennessee, and they got to find something. Adrian Peterson probably isn't the answer, even though they signed him to the practice squad. We know he's 36 years old and hasn't done a whole lot. He obviously hasn't played at all this year. We don't even know what kind of shape he's in. I would expect him to be in good shape just because we know his workout routine. But, Mike, he's not the answer. There's got to be somebody out there that they can try to trade for. It may not work out, but Jamal Williams, somebody, you got to make some phone calls and see if you can bring somebody in to help you at this point, because, again, that's your identity, Mike. You're a running football team, and you don't have the running back who is and was the best in the NFL, and you're not going to have him probably for the rest of the regular season.
The Broncos are confounding because last week they acquired a couple of players. Now, maybe in hindsight, they were girding the defense in anticipation of trading Von Miller because they had Stephen Weatherly, they had a linebacker. Maybe they're trying to build up the defense a little bit before they remove one of its best pieces. So I don't know whether they're buyers or sellers or what the hell's going on there. Yeah. And I'm not sure they quite know at this point. And when you don't have somebody who is the sole owner who can ultimately guide, even though the owners say we don't tell the GMs what to do, they have a way of getting their point across. So I don't know about the Titans. And you think about the teams that have a surplus at running back. Well, first of all, your surplus at running back can go away just like that. I mean, the Ravens have Le'Veon Bell on the active roster now, along with Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray. They're all on the active roster. Nobody's on the practice squad and can be pilfered that way. But why would you trade any of those guys if you're the Ravens? First of all, why help the Titans? And second of all, you could have guys get injured just like you saw Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins go down for the season.
Well, and as you saw with the Browns, I mean, they had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and we're talking about, they're both going to rush for 1,000 yards, and all of a sudden they're without both of those guys. So you need that depth, and we've seen the Browns with 3 running backs. You need that depth at running back. But, yeah, that's the tough thing, Mike, is to try to go find one. And there is no other Derrick Henry out there. I mean, Joe Mixon is second in the NFL right now in touches, and he's 100 touches behind Derrick Henry. There is no one out there who's Derrick Henry. So to think you're going to replace him, you're not going to do it. This is going to be Ryan Tannehill's team from here on out, Mike.
And we'll see what they can do. They've got A.J. Brown, who's been spectacular the last 3 weeks. They've got Julio Jones. But the presence of Derrick Henry opens up the rest of that offense. And whoever they get, however they find him, wherever they find him, he's not going to be Derrick Henry. And they're just going to have to make chicken salad. And the good news is they've got the division tied up, which means they've got a couple of months to figure out where and how and when they're going to be ready to go in the postseason.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.